So why preseason game number 2 is so important? Look, the first thing is Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Hasn't necessarily been decided yet. Now, we all think that it's been decided. And maybe, again, they could be just giving us coach speak, but I need to see Russell Wilson on the field do something, something. Now, if he comes out against Buffalo and he's lights out, then I think the competition's over because I don't think he's playing in preseason game number 3. I just don't think I don't think either one of them actually are going to play in preseason game number 3. So this is it. This is the opportunity, I believe, to go win the job. This is the chance. Mike Tomlin said it. He takes things in stadium a lot more into account when evaluating someone than he does in practice. Well, here's another opportunity in stadium for them to be able to do that. We'll see what happens, but I like that it's still a battle. I like that it's still a battle. So, not sure who's going to win it. And you all know me, don't care who wins it. But I want somebody effective that can run the offense the right way. But I still think it's up for grabs. I think it's up for grabs. That's why I believe this preseason game is still super, super important. Number 2, we got to establish the run. We didn't really establish the run with our frontline guys the other night. We got to establish a little bit of a run. I'm not saying that we got to come out and show, our whole playbook or anything like that, running the football and what we're trying to do. But at some point, it's just man on man, double team front side, pull a guy around and move somebody. We got to be able to do that. Arthur Smith's offense is terrible without it, just flat out ass without being able to run the football. So we got to be able to establish the run. And again, formation groups, motion, all that kind of stuff to trick the defense. We're not going to do a lot of that, if any of it, in the preseason. And I'm okay with that. But there's still going to be times where you just line up and you got to move somebody against their will. We got to be able to do that. Got to do a much better job of that. On the defensive side of the ball, DeMarvin Leal, who we talked about, Ryan Watts, and Beanie Bishop all need to continue to pop. Yeah. They got to keep going. They got to keep going. Look, Watts and Bishop are rookies. They've shown enough that I think both are going to be on this team at this point, but it's not over. The competition is not over for guys like that. DeMarvin Leal more than likely is going to be on this team. He's trying to be a starter. He's trying to get to show that, number one, hey, man, the first couple of years, I get it. I wasn't ready to be a pro. Now I'm ready to be a pro. And I'm showing you that I'm ready to be a pro. So, yeah, this is a big opportunity. Again, game number 2, continue to do the things that you've been doing. Just continue. Don't settle and rest on your laurels, because as soon as you do that, something will happen and somebody's going to pass you up. And I think all 3 of these guys are too talented to allow that to happen. It's not that the Steelers won't pass them up for somebody, because they will, and if they need to. But I think these guys are ultra talented. They would prefer not to do that. They would prefer to have those guys there. So we'll see what happens. Then Zach Frazier's got to get more first-team reps. Look, I'm sorry. We talked about the snaps and Justin Fields. Nate Herbig is just as responsible for those snaps. So it just is what it is. 50%, 50%. Either way, it's all horrible. It's time for Zach Frazier to get in there. He looked good. He started getting more first-team reps during practice this week. He looked good in preseason game number 1. It's just time. He's the better center. I mean, let's just call it what it is. He's the better center. Not to mention, it's his natural position. Herbig, it is not his natural position. He's a guard playing center because the Steelers have him there. It's time, people. It's time. So, and again, we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about the offensive line. So, get some clarity at wide receiver. Yeah. Move on from Brandon Ayuk if we're not going to make the deal, which it doesn't look like that deal's getting done. It's time to get some clarity. Van Jefferson, does he have the job? I think so. So, here's the thing. Does a Scotty Miller make the cut? He's familiar with Arthur Smith's offense. Do you guys want a Scotty Miller? That's a lot of slot receivers. or guys of that size, Calvin Austin or the third, I don't know. I don't know if Scotty Miller makes the team. I don't mind a Scotty Miller. I think he's fine. But I'm not sure that he does, even though he does have that Arthur Smith connection because he knows the offense. Would you guys be okay with that? Throw that in the comments. If Scotty Miller was the fifth wide receiver on this football team, would you guys be okay with that? But we got to start getting some more clarity at wide receiver. And again, this is another preseason game to help do that. Now let's bring up the depth chart. We'll just start talking about that and see where guys are as of right now. So first things first on the offensive line, left tackle. Let me just clarify this. These are the guys that I want to be in these positions. I don't think this is necessarily what the Steelers are going to do, but these are the positions where I believe the guys are going to be, if that makes sense. So first up, I got Broderick Jones as the starter, Dan Moore Jr. as the backup. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but that's what I want to see happen as of right now. Okay, now starting at left guard. So at left guard, look, it's Isaac Seumalo. I mean, that one's an easy one. And then Spencer Anderson looked good the other night. Spencer Anderson is also very versatile, can play a lot of different positions. So he's going to make this team. The Steelers like him. He's the backup as of now at left guard. We'll see wherever he can move around. So we'll go from there. Center, it's got to be Zach Frazier. And we can put Herbig behind him if we need to. That's fine. I mean, he needs to be. We got to have a backup center. Herbig can also play guard because that's his natural position, but Zach Frazier needs to be the starter. So, again, this is the Steelers' almighty depth chart as we see it needs to be as of now. And then, look, James Daniels at right guard. Mason McCormick is behind him. Mason McCormick looked good the other night, too. He looked good. So, I almost called him Mitch. Why do I want to call this guy Mitch, people? His name is not Mitch. It's Mason. And I keep wanting to say it. Well, Mason. Evening Christmas. I don't know. It is what it is. Bottom line, good backup. I like him there as the backup right guard. And then at right tackle, Troy Fautanu. Yes, got to be the starter there. Now, again, the injury we're going to see. We're going to see exactly what happens. Dylan Cook isn't going to start in his place. It'll be Broderick Jones, but Dylan Cook is there. I think he's got a good shot to make this team, even though technically it looks like Broderick Jones is actually the swing tackle, which is wild to me that your starting left tackle would be your swing tackle, but whatever. That's what it is as of this moment. So moving on. We got the tight end position. I don't think that's up for grabs. I mean, look, it's Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, and then Connor Hayward. That's simple. I think those three guys are going to make the roster. A lock, obviously, Freiermuth and Washington. I think all three are just an absolute lock to making the roster. I don't even think there's any debate on that whatsoever. At quarterback, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say Russell Wilson wins the job. Fields behind him, Kyle Allen at number 3. I still want to see the competition continue to grow on. But as of right this second, that's the order. Is Wilson, Fields, Allen. In that order. Running back, Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren. And I like Edwards. A lot of people don't like him. I like him. Yeah, buddy. Absolutely, I like him. So Dwan Edwards, yes. I like him to be the number 3 running back. Look, it's going to be a battle. He's going to have to do some stuff on special teams, but I think he's capable of doing that. I like him to be the number 3 running back. Now let's move to fullback. Look, Jack Coletto, just blowing people out of the way. Look, we haven't had a fullback, or we didn't have one last year. Even when Derek Watt was here, we didn't always use him in that capacity. The Steelers are going to use him a lot. 21, 22, 23 personnel, even some 20 personnel, which is a little odd sometimes. But yeah, we're going to use a fullback to do things that fullbacks do. I like him being on this roster. The guy is an animal, and we've seen it all training camp. We've seen it. We've seen him doing his thing. So good for him, man. Look, wide receiver 1, is Pickens, obviously. Do we need to go make a trade for somebody else? No. Pickens is the wide receiver number one. Now, behind him, that's where I've got Roman Wilson, because I think by week one, I think Roman Wilson will be back. And that's where it comes in. I got Scotty Miller behind him. It comes in, okay, does Scotty Miller make the team? Yeah, I think as of right now, I think he does. So I like Scotty Miller there behind Roman Wilson. At the other wide receiver starting spot, I got Van Jefferson as of right now. Now, as the season goes on, maybe Roman Wilson could end up getting that job, because I think he was tracking to get that job before the ankle injury. I think he was tracking to get it. But as of now, Van Jefferson, the starter, Calvin Austin, the third, coming in behind him. So that's how I see the offensive depth chart right now. Again, this is a Steelers almighty depth chart as we see it. Now let's flip over to defense. What do we have on the defensive side? First off, at nose tackle, we've got Keanu Benton. Yeah. Keanu Benton. I think Keanu Benton is going to be the difference to this defense. Martravius Adams is a backup. Looked good the other night. Has basically looked good since he got here. So let's not kid ourselves. I think the guy, again, if Benton needs to move over to one of the other spots in a 3-4 or whatever the alignment is, Adams, while a backup, has played well, can fill in. It's a solid position for the Steelers right now. Very, very solid. Left end, Larry Ogunjobi, looking good. There were questions about him. There were questions about, what, basically after what we saw last year is like, okay, we got to have something from Larry O. Well, we've gotten something so far in camp from Larry O. So good for him. Dean Lowry behind him. Been hurt, but I think Dean Lowry's a player. Matter of fact, I know he's a player, because I think he could have gone some other places and maybe started on other teams at a defensive tackle position. So having Dean Lowry as a backup is big. Right defensive end, Cam Hayward. And again, we run a 3-4 set. Cam Hayward, gigantic. We know what Cam Hayward is. We know what he means to this organization. It is what it is. We love Cam Hayward. There's just no ways around it. Need to have him to have a good year, though. We need to have him have a good year this year. And then DeMarvin Leal, we've talked about it earlier. Incredible camp so far. The light switch looks like that is flipped on for him. Left outside linebacker. TJ Watt, that kind of goes without saying. And then Kyron Johnson has played well. Looks like he's played his way into a backup role. Like, we thought it was going to go to Marcus Golden, but he retired. And again, I love what Mike Tomlin had to say about Marcus Golden. Football's tough. If you're not 100% all in, he probably made the right decision. And it didn't. He came into camp and he thought, you know what, this just isn't for me. Or maybe he didn't even want to go through camp. And maybe he's like, week 4 or 5, call me back. And maybe I'll come back then. And maybe that's it. But either way, Kyron Johnson, I think, has worked himself into that position. Right outside linebacker, Alex Highsmith. We know what he brings to the table. And then Nick Herbig playing well. Had a big pressure on C.J. Stroud in preseason game number 1. I expect big things out of him this season, man. I just do. I think the Steelers are going to mix and match and do a lot of different stuff in obvious passing downs where they can get Watt, Highsmith, and Herbig all on the field at the same time. If they can, or if they do, it can cause problems for teams. It really, really can cause problems for teams. So next up, look, in the inside linebacker, Patrick Queen, and then Mark Robinson behind him. We know what Patrick Queen brings to the table. Second team All-Pro last year. Young, athletic, fast, and plays with an attitude. And it seems like he's also playing with the chip on his shoulder. A lot of people aren't saying that he's as good, saying that everything that he did was because of Roquan Smith. Well, now he gets his opportunity. I love that for him. Good for him, man. Right outside or inside linebacker, I tried to talk it into existence, even though the majority of you guys told me I was nuts. It looks like you guys are right that E-Rob is going to end up winning that battle over Peyton Wilson. I will say this. Peyton Wilson is going to get reps, and it's not just going to be in obvious passing downs, okay? He's going to get some reps on rundowns. His upside is just better than Robinson. It is. And I know Robinson's a tackler, or not Robinson, Roberts. I apologize, Roberts. I know he's a tackler. I get it. He is a great tackler. But I just think Wilson can be better and will be better. Now, he's got to show it. He's got to go do it. But I think that he's going to be better. I really, really do. So cornerback number 1, Joey Porter Jr., great year last year. Got to be a little less handsy. He's a little handsy out there, but he can work on that. And then Beanie Bishop. Now, granted, I know Beanie Bishop and Grayland Arnold are playing slot corner and battling out for slot corner. But we're just doing the base defense here. So we'll put those two behind Joey Porter Jr. And basically, Arnold and Bishop right now, it looks like they're in a battle for that starting slot corner spot. We thought Bishop was playing well. All of a sudden, we get to practice this week, and Arnold has taken most of the reps there. You don't know if Mike Tomlin saw something or the defense saw something, or if they're trying to send a message to see how Bishop, responds to, I don't know, some adversity. Hey, we're taking this job away from you. Are you going to crumble or are you going to fight back? And I think Beanie Bishop may just fight back, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Other starting cornerback position, Dante Jackson's looked really good. He's looked good. He's a little banged up right now, but he'll be healthy. It's nothing serious. He'll be back. Corey Trice Jr. Yeah. Corey Trice Jr. has looked good, people. He has. He's figured some stuff out. He's trusting his knee. He always had the talent. It's his health that's always been the problem. Well, he's healthy, and he's trusting it. The Steelers have given an opportunity since Jackson has been out, and he's looked good. He's looked good as the starting corner. So we have him as the backup. Anthony Averett, we'll see what he can do. If he can push for that backup spot, I think he's going to make the roster. I think he will. But right now he's at number 3. He's at number 3 behind Jackson and Trice at that position. Strong safety, Deshaun Elliott, a little banged up, but Deshaun Elliott has done his thing. We know what Deshaun Elliott can be. He's looked good in training camp, by the way. He's looked good in training camp. My man, Ryan Watts, I talked that into existence. Is the backup there as of now. Look, Miles Killebrew is the special teams guy. We know what Killebrew is. He's a special teams guy. Watts is a better safety than he's going to be. I like him being out there. And then at free safety, look, we're getting Mika back to doing the things that Mika does best. I love it. Good, but it's a big year for him, though. After having a little bit of not a little bit, it was a down year. It was injured, but it was a down year for Mika Fitzpatrick last year. Big year, big bounce back year for him. And then DeMonte KZ, a lot of people said that he is a guy that could get traded on cut down day or absolutely cut. Now, I don't think that that's going to happen, but it could. It kind of depends on what happens with our man Ryan Watts. So we'll see what happens there. But that is the depth chart as Steelers Almighty sees it on the offense and the defensive side, people. Like I said, I think this preseason game is very, very important. So